Why do sacred beings across three ancient faiths share the same powerful names? Have you ever wondered why some of the most powerful spiritual entities in Christianity, Hinduism, and Zoroastrianism carry nearly identical names? This isn't random. This isn't folklore. This is evidence of something far more extraordinary that's been deliberately overlooked or hidden throughout centuries. And once you uncover what's really behind these names, your entire understanding of spirituality will shift forever. Let me give you an example that'll blow your mind. Archangel Michael, that celestial warrior fighting against darkness in Christianity. Now travel thousands of miles east and dive into Hinduism. There you'll discover Mitra, a solar deity connected to light, justice, and cosmic order. Coincidence? Hold on, because there's more. In Zoroastrianism, the Persian religion that predates Christianity by centuries, there's Mithra, also linked to light and divine protection. These names aren't just similar, they carry the same essence, the same energy, the same spiritual function. So how do such parallel entities appear in completely different religions, separated by geography, language, and culture? The answer lies in the ancestral roots. All these traditions share, but few dare to openly discuss. Here's the truth nobody told you. Before religions split into Christianity, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Islam, and all the others we know today, there existed a primordial spirituality, an ancestral wisdom that crossed continents, passed down through generations via symbols, rituals, and sacred names. These traditions didn't emerge in isolation. They all drew from the same spiritual wellspring, and the names we see today are remnants of that ancient knowledge. Think of it like a river dividing into multiple streams. Each stream may follow its own path, have its own color and speed, but they all originate from the same source. The sacred names we find across different religions are exactly that, fragments of wisdom that was shared before being divided, reinterpreted, and in some cases, deliberately concealed. Now, here's a practical action for you. Grab a notebook or open your phone's notes. Write down 3 names you've heard in different religious contexts. Can be any angel, god, or demon. Throughout this journey, you're going to start noticing connections you never imagined existed. And the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes that religions aren't as separate as we've been taught. If this topic sparks something inside you, hit that like button right now. And in the comments, drop just one word: awakening. I want to know how many of you are ready to see beyond religious boundaries. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel, because this journey is just getting started. What if one religion's demons are actually another religion's gods? Here's something that's going to flip everything you thought you knew upside down. What if I told you that Zoroastrianism's demons are literally Hinduism's gods? I'm not exaggerating. I'm talking about identical names, functions, and powers, just completely inverted. What's sacred in one tradition becomes profane in another. And this didn't happen by accident. It was a strategic, political, and spiritual choice. Let's look at the facts. In Hinduism, the Devas are luminous deities, protectors of cosmic order, responsible for maintaining dharma. They've been venerated, honored, and invoked in sacred rituals for millennia. Now take that exact same name and bring it to Zoroastrianism. There, the Daevas are demons, malevolent entities serving chaos and destruction. Same linguistic root, same origin, but completely opposite interpretation. And it doesn't stop there. In Hinduism, the Asuras are often portrayed as powerful beings, though not always malevolent. In some ancient Vedic traditions, they were even considered primordial deities. But in Zoroastrianism, Ahura Mazda is the supreme god, the personification of light and absolute goodness. See the inversion? What's God in one system is demon in another, and the other way around. This isn't a translation error. This isn't misinterpretation. This is the result of a spiritual war that happened thousands of years ago, when different cultures and traditions started competing for territory, power, and influence. Each side needed to validate their own beliefs, and the most effective way to do that was demonizing the other's sacred beings. Think about it. When a new religion emerges or gains power, it needs to differentiate itself from the old ones. And one of the most effective ways to do that is transforming ancient gods into demons. It happened with European paganism when Christianity spread. Nature deities like Pan and Cernunnos were transformed into images of the devil. It happened with African religions during colonization. And it happened between Hinduism and Zoroastrianism too. But here's what you need to understand. This inversion didn't happen because one religion was right and the other wrong. It happened because both were trying to protect their spiritual identity, their ancestral practices, and their cultural power. The problem is that in this process, truth got buried under layers and layers of reinterpretation. So here's your next practical action. Choose an entity you know as demonic in your tradition. Now research the origin of that name in other cultures. You'll be shocked to discover that somewhere in the world, that same entity might be worshipped as a protective deity. This is living proof that good and evil are constructed concepts, molded by culture and time period. If this is making sense to you like this video, and answer me in the comments, which entity do you most want to understand the true origin of? Write its name. And if you're starting to question everything you learned about spirituality, subscribe to the channel because there's still so much more hidden truth to be revealed. How did ancient religions borrow sacred names without anyone noticing? Let's talk about something that'll completely shift how you view religious history. The sacred names, didn't appear out of thin air. They traveled. They migrated across cultures, languages, and belief systems, like spiritual DNA passing through generations. And the most fascinating part, this exchange happened so seamlessly that most people today have no idea it even occurred. Here's what really happened. Thousands of years ago, ancient civilizations weren't isolated bubbles. They traded goods, shared knowledge, and exchanged spiritual practices along routes that connected Persia, India, Greece, and eventually Europe. When merchants traveled these paths, they didn't just carry spices and silk. They carried stories, myths, and sacred names that would eventually shape the world's major religions. Take the concept of the divine messenger, for instance. In Zoroastrianism, you have the Amesha Spentis, immortal spirits serving Ahura Mazda with specific roles and powers. Fast forward a few centuries, and Christianity introduces archangels with strikingly similar functions. Gabriel delivers divine messages. Michael leads heavenly armies. Raphael brings healing. These aren't new inventions. They're adaptations of spiritual archetypes that already existed in Persian tradition. But here's where it gets really interesting. This wasn't plagiarism or theft. It was natural cultural evolution. When different civilizations encountered each other, they recognized universal spiritual truths in each other's traditions. They saw that despite different languages and customs, humans everywhere were trying to understand the same cosmic forces, the same divine presence, the same eternal questions about existence. The names adapted based on linguistic roots. Sanskrit, Avestan, Hebrew, Greek, and Latin all belong to the Indo-European language family. So when a Persian word for a spiritual concept traveled to India, it naturally morphed into something that fit the local language while keeping its core meaning. That's why Mithra in Persia sounds like Mitra in India. That's why Asura and Ahura share the same ancient root. Now, here's what this means for you personally. Understanding these connections doesn't diminish the power of these sacred names. It actually reveals their true universality. When you call upon an archangel, you're tapping into a spiritual current that humans have accessed for thousands of years across countless cultures. You're part of an unbroken chain of seekers reaching toward the divine. Here's your transformative action. Choose one sacred name from your tradition that you regularly invoke in prayer or meditation. Now research its linguistic roots and see where else that name or similar names appear in other ancient religions. You'll discover you're connecting with something far more ancient and powerful than you realized. If this knowledge is expanding your spiritual awareness, show some love with a like. And in the comments, tell me, which sacred name surprised you the most when you discovered its origins? Share your insight, and if you're hungry for more hidden truths about spirituality, hit that subscribe button because we're diving even deeper into these ancient mysteries. What happens when you discover all religions point to the same divine source? We've reached the moment where everything clicks into place in a way that fundamentally transforms your spiritual journey. After discovering that Christian angels, Hindu gods, and Zoroastrian demons share the same names and origins, you can't unsee this truth. And here's what's truly beautiful. This revelation doesn't destroy your faith. It elevates your connection with the divine to something far more authentic and powerful. Understanding that all these traditions drew from the same ancestral source changes everything. It means the battles between religions suddenly seem pointless. There's no single correct religion, with all others being wrong. What exists are different cultural expressions of the same spiritual truth, shaped by geography, history, and the unique needs of different peoples. The names shift, the rituals evolve, but the essence remains constant. Let's get real about what this means for your daily spiritual practice. You can honor your tradition while recognizing wisdom in others. You can pray to Archangel Michael knowing you're invoking the same primordial energy that Persians called Mithra and Hindus called Mitra. This isn't betraying your faith. This is understanding that the divine is far vaster than any single name or belief system can contain. And here's something revolutionary. When you stop viewing other religions as threats or falsehoods, you free yourself from limiting dogmas. You start seeking truth wherever it exists, whether in a Hindu temple, a mosque, a church, or in nature itself. Because all these traditions are different expressions of the same human quest for the sacred, for transcendence, for meaning in existence. Think about how many wars, persecutions, and atrocities happened because people believed their God was the only true one. How many lives were lost defending names and interpretations, when in reality everyone was speaking about the same primordial light. That's the tragedy of spiritual amnesia. When we forget the ancestral memory that we're all part of the same journey, we create divisions where bridges should exist. But you now carry this awareness, and with it comes responsibility. Share this knowledge with respect, openness, and compassion. This isn't about convincing anyone to abandon their faith. It's about showing that all faiths can coexist in harmony when we recognize the common root connecting us all. So here's your final transformative action. Over the next 7 days, pay attention to how you relate to other spiritual traditions. When you hear about a religion different from yours, instead of judging or dismissing it, ask yourself, what ancestral truth might be hidden there? What wisdom can I gain by respecting this difference? If this content touched your soul and expanded your consciousness, smash that like button. In the comments, write one word that captures how you're feeling after this journey, and share this video with someone who needs to see beyond religious borders. If you want to keep uncovering the sacred mysteries that have been hidden for centuries, subscribe to the channel because we still have so much sacred ground to explore together.